Chinese anti-satellite weapon locked onto a SpaceX cargo vessel carrying critical military supplies, it wasn't just a strike on a commercial ship. It was a direct challenge to U.S. naval supremacy. Within minutes, every sensor, comms link, and satellite feed tied to that mission went dark. So what triggered this hostile act in orbit? And why did the U.S. response unfold faster than anyone imagined? Because in modern conflict, whoever controls the space lanes controls the fight at sea, and China just lit the fuse. In Kherson, a single corporate decision silenced an entire battlefield before the enemy even advanced. Ukrainian forces, already spread thin along the Dnipro, relied on constant uplinks to coordinate artillery fire, guide drones, and relay movement orders. That lifeline ran through Starlink, the constellation of low-orbit satellites hovering over the combat zone. In the first months of the war, it became the digital spine of Ukraine's resistance. Secure, fast, and able to sidestep Russian jamming, it kept planners connected to units in trenches, on river crossings, and in forward observation posts. Without it, every maneuver slowed and every strike risked going blind. Then, in September 2022, the link vanished. Elon Musk, acting on his own directive, ordered coverage shut down over parts of the front. There was no gradual fade. Units operating quadcopters lost video feeds mid-flight. Forward air controllers stopped getting targeting data. Artillery crews, waiting for final coordinates, fired into empty grid squares instead of hostile troop positions. Even armored columns stalled because their encrypted communications evaporated, leaving commanders unable to pass movement orders without risking open-air radio calls that could be intercepted and triangulated. On the ground, the drop-in capability was immediate. Observation drones meant to track Russian armor simply drifted until their batteries died. Precision munitions suddenly became area weapons, with shells falling hundreds of meters off target. In cities, infantry lost the real-time maps that told them which streets were safe and which intersections were under sniper overwatch. The outage didn't just cost Ukraine eyes and ears. It stripped away the ability to react faster than the enemy. Military professionals noticed something far beyond the Ukrainian fight. U.S. naval task forces in contested waters also integrate Starlink into their comms architecture. It plugs into encrypted tablets on bridge wings, into ISR nodes feeding live drone footage to operations rooms, and into logistics ships coordinating with carrier strike groups at sea. That makes the dependency a double-edged sword. Starlink's unmatched coverage means a destroyer in the Philippine Sea can talk to fleet headquarters without relying on older military satellites. But it also means a private decision in California could ripple across the Pacific in seconds. That risk grows because Starlink is huge. With thousands of satellites in orbit, it's the largest commercial space network ever built. Its scale makes it powerful, but also singular. One point of failure that, if compromised or intentionally withdrawn, can cripple entire formations. This isn't like losing one government bird to a missile. It's like pulling the main fiber trunk out of an entire command structure. In real conflict, the margin between success and loss can be measured in seconds of communication. A delayed targeting update can let an adversary move armor out of position before a strike lands. A broken link between ships can leave a carrier without a coordinated anti-air screen when missiles are inbound. That's why the Kherson blackout alarmed so many in uniform. And the most unsettling part was the source. This was not the result of enemy jammers or orbital interference. It was a deliberate, strategic choice by the network's owner, executed instantly, and beyond the control of the client forces in the war zone. If such a decision can strip an army of its backbone on land, consider what happens at sea in the middle of a high-tempo US-China engagement. A fleet spread across thousands of miles is even more dependent on space-based networks. And when those networks are privately owned, the battlefield may hinge on the boardroom. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It makes such a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. A laser lock-on from a Chinese anti-satellite platform lit up a SpaceX cargo vessel's telemetry feed like a Christmas target board. In the control module, warning icons began stacking across the displays as the system detected active targeting from orbit. The vessel wasn't some routine civilian launch delivering internet terminals or scientific payloads. It carried precision-engineered encrypted communication modules and ISR relay gear, critical to a high-priority U.S. Navy maneuver unfolding deep in the Pacific. Its orbit was timed so that the transfer to a forward-deployed carrier group in the South China Sea would occur in a narrow window. Minutes of opportunity during which the fleet's connectivity network would be expanded and hardened. For years, the Navy has leaned on SpaceX's orbital transport as a faster, more flexible option for moving sensitive equipment. The system bypasses normal sea-lift routes, sidesteps surface interdiction threats, and can put hardware into position without depending on aging military launch capacity. Carrier strike groups, operating on the edge of contested waters, have integrated these deliveries directly into their operational tempo. When a resupply capsule arrives, it can contain the tools to patch gaps in real-time targeting, boost surveillance coverage, or replace encryption hardware compromised in the field. That makes each shipment both a strategic safeguard and a potential liability. Pentagon analysts had already warned about China's counterspace ambitions. They assessed that systems like the S, C-19, and DN-2 weren't being developed in isolation. Intelligence briefings described co-orbital assets capable of sidling up to targets, as well as ground-based lasers designed to temporarily blind optical sensors or corrupt data streams. All of these capabilities aim to neutralize the satellite layer that modern militaries treat as invisible infrastructure. In a conflict, losing that layer doesn't just slow operations, it can sever the coordination between ships, aircraft, and command posts. When the lock-on occurred, the SpaceX cargo vessel was midway through its telemetry relay to the strike group. In the combat information centers of those ships, live ISR feeds hiccuped, then froze. Drone patrols providing over-the-horizon targeting went black. Even routine positional updates between Aegis destroyers lagged, creating pockets of uncertainty in the fleet's defensive net. For the crews, this wasn't a theoretical cyber drill. It was a live systems outage with unknown duration and unknown cause, right inside contested waters. Beijing's public line came within hours. Officials called the illumination a defensive signal, consistent with long-standing PLA views that outer space is a critical extension of the battlefield. In their doctrine, disabling or intimidating support satellites is no different than shadowing an opponent's supply convoy at sea. The message was carefully framed to stop short of admitting an attack, while still making it clear the capability existed and would be used to pressure adversaries. Washington's answer was fast. Naval units shifted communications to hardened backup channels, while cyber teams pushed countermeasures through allied networks. Electronic warfare aircraft began emitting targeted jamming bursts in the direction of PLA surface groups, known to carry space tracking systems. Unmarked maritime drones were positioned, intentionally visible, within sensor range of Chinese destroyers, a move meant to signal that U.S. targeting chains were still functional. The exchange didn't involve missiles or torpedoes, yet in the scale of strategic signaling, it was as direct as sending a ship to block a port. History shows that cutting or threatening an opponent's resupply line has always been provocative. In both world wars, choking off shipping lanes triggered escalation, even without formal declarations. Here, the lifeline ran through low Earth orbit, and its disruption jolted Pentagon planners. They were forced to see that a private aerospace network, one they had come to treat as reliable as a carrier's power plant, could drag the nation toward a space crisis in minutes. And the question hanging over the Pacific was clear. How do you secure those orbital arteries when so many of them aren't under government control? The next war will test more than fleets and air wings. It will hinge on control of orbital communication lanes that carry every order, update, and targeting solution. If one corporate decision or a targeted disruption can stall a carrier group, then dominance at sea may depend on redefining who owns and governs those networks. Naval power has always rested on secure supply lines. Today, many run through space. In the battles ahead, resilience in orbit could matter as much as aircraft on a deck. The question is simple: How prepared are we to fight when the high ground is above the clouds?